Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here.
I'm Johnny. Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Johnny Marr. It's Johnny Marr. Wow.
It is finally happening.
We've
been talking about this for a long time, and a lot of you have been asking for this for a long time, and we are delighted and honoured, Johnny, to be here at your studio.
You're welcome. It's great. We don't get many visitors. Nice to see you guys.
We're going to cover a lot of stuff today, but we have a narrative that is Johnny's guitars. Johnny's got a new book coming out, which we'll talk a lot about, and Johnny will indeed talk about. But that's going to be the kind of backbone of the story today, because it gives us a chance to work through a whole bunch of classic bits of Johnny's career, Smiths, the Cribs, solo career, and everything else in between, film music and all of that. And I think, Johnny, you've picked out a bunch of guitars that help tell part of that story.
Yeah. Well, it's great timing that we're doing this as I've just finished the book. That's the most recent thing that, fruits of my labour, so to speak. That the book's just arrived. I've just got early copies of it, and it's Marr's guitars, and I guess you're the guys to talk to about it. Really, perfect. They're very proud of it. As I say, it's been a real labour of love.
We'll do some close-up shots so you can see. As someone who's worked in print, I can see what an unbelievable labour of love this has been. The detail is
It's quite extraordinary.
off the scale.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
And you told us a little story just as we were setting up and everything about the main inspiration for how it came together.
Yeah, well, I have to give credit to Pat Graham, the photographer, because Pat was the main photographer with Modest Mouse. He was around on the bus, and he was around 24/7 with the band. And I just became a fan of his photographs. This was, 15 years ago. And he takes these really beautiful, quite often abstract, detailed pictures of people's instruments. And I'd seen that he'd done that with a bunch of other musicians over the years. And that gave me the inspiration for it, the more abstract-y, arty kind of approach. And I thought, okay. And then I had the title Marr's Guitars. I thought, well, that's a no-brainer. And so that was inspiration. Pat's beautiful, abstract, arty pictures. And then in the process of taking on the book, which meant basically getting together over 100 guitars with all these, often with stories and big parts of my personal and professional life, the whole process took on a life of its own then. So arranging the shoe of all those guitars and for them to be done appropriately, that was a big deal. In some cases, finding a few old guitars, one or two cases that I'd given to, like Bernard Butler, I'd given a guitar to, and Bernard very kindly made that available. And
We know someone who you've given a guitar or two to.
what would that be, Noel Gallagher?
That would be Noel Gallagher.
Well, Noel, yeah, it was brilliant. So Noel was just so, I know he was on the show recently, right? But the two Les Pauls that are now Noel's, that there's a lot of stories around, they're in the book. And then also he came up with a bit of a surprise, which I'd completely forgotten about, which was the strap that he bought off me. He says in the book how he thought he'd better actually pay for one. He used on Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger. So wow. A whole load of stuff happened whilst the book was being made, from getting the shoot together. And it's, in a way, I did an autobiography in 2016, 2017, and I was expecting, this catharsis from writing a book about my life story, but actually doing this guitar book there was a lot of catharsis in writing the guitar book, because I pick up the Casino that I did How Soon Is Now on, or my Ricky or something like that, and just something about holding the guitar, and I felt like I did at the time, and all these memories came back, and
Sure.
Very clear memories of how I felt, and that was through hearing the guitar and picking it up. Do you want to see the first one in there?
Yeah,
Please.
Let's do it. You, by the way, you must listen to Johnny's autobiography or read it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Listen to it, because Johnny narrates it. Set the boy free. It is just
Thanks,
awesome.
guys.
Yeah,
Nice one.
it's really brilliant.
So, get us a Gretsch whip. Nice one.
This is Rich, by the way.
Yep.
Richard,
Yep.
my assistant and enabler. Thank you.
Those of you who have been around
20 odd years.
guitar business will know Rich.
30 years. 30 years, Rich.
I've never seen one of these in the flesh before.
This is Gretsch Super Axe, and this was the guitar I got when I formed the Smiths. I traded in my Les Paul Standard for this for a few reasons, really. I wanted something different. It was 1982, Gretsch's with Dave Rigueur. It sort of seemed to be, I like that it was kind of a 50s thing. But frankly, this was the only one I could afford. All these switches, so it's got a phaser on it. Now I would use it. Back then, I was like, no, that's got no place in my new band. But there's a compressor on there. If I get it to work, hang on. Yeah, so there's a compressor on there, tone, and yeah, this is what I had when I started the Smiths off. And like all guitars and all guitar players out there will know this, it makes you play in a certain way.
Yeah.
I wrote, so Hand in Glove was the big one that we did the record on. Dead simple. And it stayed in pretty good condition. I just love that riff, it's so dumb. Which is Gene by the Smiths. And so all
It's
kinds
got
of
a
stuff
really
happened.
unique voice, isn't it? Because I expect on a bridge pickup to it to be middly and tight,
Yeah.
but it sounds really open and full. And
Yeah, it's warm sounding.
yeah.
It makes me kind of play in that very open style, I think. Smiths did all our early shows with this guitar. It was my one guitar.
Right.
There was a thing that, for some reason, I used to tune up a whole step. Most other people always tune down, don't they? Perverse, right out of the box, the Smiths, right? So I used to use light strings and tune up. I think it was just to do with when me and Morrissey first started writing. I think probably couldn't afford a capo or something, maybe. It went back to that. So I just tuned up to, because his melodies were quite low.
Okay.
So I tuned up. But Andy on bass stayed in concert. So it gave us some interesting sort of things that he was doing on the bass. I mean, he was amazing anyway, obviously. But anyway, so I used to snap strings all the time, of course, when I really couldn't afford to snap strings. So, yeah, we did the first single on this and the early songs, as I say, in the early shows. And then when we got signed, I was able to buy a backup guitar. And that was when I bought the Rick 330.
So this is Hand in Glove.
Yeah. That was the only song that was... Let me see, was that the only song we recorded with this guitar?
Right,
And all
okay.
the early gigs, yeah. Because there's a version of the Smiths' first album that we did with the producer Troy Tate, which I think has got some really good moments on it. And that was done on this guitar.
Right.
But then we re-recorded the first album because there were some aspects of it that weren't right. And by that time, we'd done more gigs and I'd acquired the Rickenbacker by that time.
Okay.
Would you like to see the
Would
Rickenbacker?
love to see the Rickenbacker.
Okay. So when I got this, I got it very deliberately. So because I thought it would make me play in a certain way.
Right.
I just had a feeling that I just knew that Rickenbacker players played a lot of chord melodies. And there's a thing about these early 80s Rickies that they are actually really great sounding guitars.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that we recorded on it was it's got a bit of chorus on it, a little bit of compression and everything, but the sound of that riff is this guitar.
So is the capo on there because you tuned up a step? Would that guitar have been, would you have been playing that 2 frets down with the guitar tuned up a step?
I wrote the song on the Gretsch.
Yeah.
And so it was written up, and then when we came to record it, because we gigged it on the Gretsch, and then when I came to record it, I didn't write it on this. When we came to record it, I just had to do it with the capo on for that reason, yeah. And also, I mean, usually, to be honest, I'd probably just play it without the capo, but I know what nerds are like. The record is actually in B. I am aware that the record's in B. Thank you very much. But one of the first things I wrote on it, though, which really I don't think I would have written on, certainly on a Strat or a Les Paul, was Accept Yourself, which went... guitar just made me do that.
Yeah.
I've got to say, it's totally fascinating sat here, because what we're hearing there is a whole generation of music.
Yeah. Yeah.
That style of playing is undeniably you, but then of course that it influenced everybody else at the time to start doing a similar thing. And it brings in a whole epoch of music and a time that is phenomenal sat here actually experiencing.
Yeah. And what blows my mind is that, so we take this charming man, and you were 19 when you did that.
Yeah.
And it was fully, your sound, Johnny Marr, fully realized from 19 years old. Because as soon as you hear that, and the melodies, the arpeggiating guitars, it's like, it was all there from
Yeah, well, one of the things that happened was, I mean, obviously chorus was a big part of the sound, but I had, there's a tape machine knocking around somewhere, but I had this T-Act tape machine before I got a chorus pedal, and I could overdub on it. So I really liked doubling.
Right.
Maybe because I couldn't afford a chorus pedal, but I liked doubling, I liked the discipline of it. And that sort of... That was kind of a hyperactive version of I don't know what.
But what got
so
you there?
tricky.
What got, like, 19 years old, and what, so this is 83?
3, 4.
This Charman was 83, I think, yeah.
And I'm just thinking of everything else that's going on at that time. I think when people heard that, they hadn't heard anything like that before. It was,
No.
It just popped out. It was its own thing.
Well, I'd been like loads of my mates who were into guitars. I'd gone through the whole, obsessive fan of guitar culture for all the way through the 70s. Because of my age, like punk happened for me around about, I guess it would have been 12 or 13. So I'd already got into some guitarists that I really liked, like Bebop Deluxe had this guy, Bill Nelson, who was a really great guitar player. And really when punk happened, me and my mates, the thing that really got our ears, going, I mean, obviously the Pistols, what they meant and everything to my generation was amazing. But from a guitar playing point of view, as I remember it, the thing that really impressed everybody was television. Richard Lloyd, I really loved. I mean, I know, him and Tom Verlaine, but I don't think Richard gets enough credit for his influence on my generation of musicians. I think Will Sargent will tell you that, and so and before that, really, I guess a big influence on me from an electric guitar point of view was Jimmy Scott from the Pretenders.
Wow.
So. But when I heard that, I just thought it was one of the coolest sounds, All that stuff. But the Pretenders were there was a few bands that were dead cool for me.
Sure.
Late 70s bands. The only ones I was obsessed with, they had a great guitar player called John Perry, still great. Jimmy from the Pretenders, which is amazing because I ended up being in the Pretenders. And XTC, Dave Gregory was really good. I saw them and they were great. I mean, I saw everyone, but the big one as well for my generation was John McGeoch, who was playing with the Banshees and with Magazine. So there was, it wasn't a complete wasteland, but it felt, aside from those guys I mentioned who were much older than me, a lot of my stuff came from playing acoustic, playing Burt Jansch, so that's where a lot of the arpeggios came from. And the broken up chords thing, that just came from, really, I've got to say, that just came from playing my feelings, really.
Right.
I'd stay up late in the bedroom and just be like, I never really saw anyone doing those kind of things. It just, I don't know, it just sort of suited my personality, I think.
Yeah.
Was it an active rejection of kind of hard rock, do you think? Was that just not your thing?
Very definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you're young, I think the things you don't like, you really don't like. And you kind of identify with, or it kind of defines you in a way. I wasn't like I wasn't a particularly angry young man or anything, but there was a lot of things about guitar culture that really, I just thought was so naff. You go in guitar shops and honestly, there would be posters of guitar players with some scantily clad women on and snakes and all of that business. But I loved guitar culture. I was already in. I was in from 1972 really, when I was about 8 or 9 with Mark Bolan. And so I was in anyway. I come from a very musical family as well. My parents were record freaks, they still are. So I grew up around a lot of very enthusiastic young Irish people who loved rock music, loved rock and roll music and loved pop music of the day. So my parents were young and really into records. So that was the atmosphere I had in my house. And they loved that I played the guitar. So it started with Bolan. So I was right in there from the early 70s, glam rock and all of that. But yeah, when it's interesting, I got to 14, 15, and I would go in the guitar shops, and a lot of the stuff I was hearing people playing, a lot of stuff I was hearing on rock radio or on the Old Grey Whistle Test and stuff like that. I wasn't like an angry punk, but I just thought it was not very nice music, really. Right. And the bands I liked, Only Ones, Psychedelic Furs, magazine, Buzzcocks. I mean, they were like, they were just like an awakening for everybody in Manchester, particularly because that's where we were all from. I don't know. Yeah. When the Buzzcocks, I mean, this is not a Ricky thing, but when the first Buzzcocks album came out, I was aware, I'd read in the music press, right, you know, that it was going to come out in like a silver bag and all of this. Anyway, the day it came out, I sagged off school early to get it. And I went into town. I always remember it was a sunny day. I got it. I took it home, and when I heard this on auto. Steve Diggle doing that. I still think that's as good as you need to be in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so brilliant, that riff. And it felt like in my bedroom hearing that song for the first time, because I was already playing, I went, it's a new day for guitar players when I heard that. And the other riff, because it doesn't sound like me, this, but... Because I was fully aware that he could probably play more complicated than that, but I just want to hear that for half an hour.
Yeah.
The attitude about reclaiming the guitar as something to do something dead cool with, that's the way I was thinking. So obviously I had a lot of musicality about me and I was super into melody, but that period, I suppose it's the same for everyone who's 15, 16, 17, but that attitude of just how cool was that riff, it just really spoke to me. And I was like, wow, you can do something really simple. I think it's, I didn't realize it at the time, but that it was my first discovery of aesthetic.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's an aesthetic there.
Because that's been a big part of your the whole clothes thing and the style, and you ended up doing that in Manchester in early days.
Yeah.
The whole idea of it being like you say, an aesthetic.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like a worldview, yeah. Just, I don't want to be disrespectful, but the culture at that time, there was Freebird and there was the Buzzcocks.
Yeah. Right.
For me as a guitar player. And now in my old age, God bless Freebird, but, it's,
Yeah,
but,
you were going.
But for a young person, it was just dead exciting hearing that what those bands were doing. So I was inspired by those cool sort of bands that had guitar players who all played guitar parts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The other thing I think I hear in the arpeggiated chords is almost like a West African highlife influence. Is that a thing or not really?
It's completely accidental.
Yeah.
So because I can hear that sounds very African.
Yeah.
But
the chorus and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe they nicked it from you.
I can hear, but I've no idea. Or just... So they on Boy with the Sun. That's very King Sunny a Day.
Yeah.
But I had no idea about that at the time. I just liked, there was tunes to be pulled out of the air, and one way or other, I was going to find a way of doing it on guitar. Sometimes I would do it with a slide. Sometimes I kept, like with that joke isn't funny anymore, there's all backwards stuff. Mm-hmm. And there was no question really until we started augmenting with some keyboards, but I always backed up the guitars anyway, that we are a guitar band, and I just wanted to come up with melodies really.
Yeah. But also, it's all centered around the song. Like, you were aware from a very early age that it's about the song.
Yeah.
And you're always writing. Just looking at the amount of songs that you've written.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's something that you're constantly doing.
Yeah. Well, the thing about serving the song was I read just some little quote from John Lennon, guitar books, and this is even before a lot of book culture came around. There wasn't like tons of books, and there wasn't tons of books about bands. as I remember. But anything that was going, I would like, sort of read it if it was in a library or whatever. And even to this day, really, you don't hear John Lennon. There's not a lot of documentation of John Lennon talking about his guitar playing very much, not that much. And but I remember seeing a thing about that. About he said, "You've got to serve the song," and it just stuck in my mind. That really, and I was aware that it being the 70s, I was aware that that's what Keith Richards was doing, that he was serving the song. There was such a massive amount of people, we call it shredding now, but such a massive amount of people noodling. That seemed to have really become the currency in guitar culture of what was good. And in a way, the Keith Richards and the John Lennon just talking about going, I mean, I really like that. If you let me do that on a song for 3 minutes, it's just catchy and great, right? It's a really good sound. I'll do that. And, I like stretching out and I like surprising myself and all of that sort of stuff too. But those people who were, because John Lennon was famous, Keith Richards was famous, who were big and who were like saying, don't bother with all of that. They were almost outliers in a way, really. Yeah, so it was quite a powerful message of serving the song, and it just really spoke to me, that idea, and it just seemed like just cooler, really. All the bands I liked were all about that. Yeah.
I just think of myself at 19, and if I had had the presence of mind to think, no, just serve the song. Yeah. But at 19, it's like, woo, woo, and it's like so many kids, but it just. That to have the vision and the songs and that sort of coming out at the maturity.
Yeah, it's very grown up.
It's very grown up. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been in bands from little, bands just with your mates, not trying to get things going in bedrooms and scout huts and all of that from being 13, 14, 15. But I think. What I think now about that apprenticeship that I had from being 15, being in bands that were giving it a go, and I'm not talking about getting paid for gigs or anything. Like, I was in a band with adults when I was 15, and I was in a couple of other bands, and we would sort of took it seriously. We weren't great, but that. So what you're talking about, having that, I guess, that awareness of serving the song, and of, I suppose you're talking about that. I was very. I had a bit of a vision for how I wanted my guitar playing to go.
Yeah.
It's quite deliberate. That came from, I'm going to say this because maybe if there's younger people watching this, but from being 15 to 16, 17, 18, all of those rehearsals and all those playing those daft gigs in front of like 15 of your mates and everything, you sort of iron out a load of stuff that you don't want to be there.
Right.
It's a funny thing. In my life anyway, it was more terrifying playing in front of 11 of my mates, but actually being on a stage and they turn up in this youth club than playing at Glastonbury.
Right.
Because they're a hard crowd to impress.
Oh, come on, Johnny, let's see what you got.
My mates would just they started off taking the piss, and then by the third time me and my band played, with me and Andy Rourke, we had this band. They were kind of like, oh, yeah, that's quite a good one. Yeah, I quite like that. Yeah, you're not bad. And if you can win over your mates at 16, 17, you're sort of on the right path there, really. I think if I'd been doing something a bit naff, I probably would have heard about it.
Was playing guitar cool then, or was it weird? Like, did your school friends think playing guitar was cool?
Not really, no. No, I think they thought it was a little odd. It was odd in a way, really. Yeah.
I'm always surprised, but I talk to kids now who play guitar, and their mates think it's weird that they play guitar, and it's like, wow, really? Still?
Oh, still, yeah.
Things haven't changed.
Yeah, I mean, you guys will know this, but one thing that's changed massively is the amount of girls, the visibility of young girls playing and just killing it. And loads, obviously in the last 20 years or whatever, that's so many in indie music particularly because that's what I know about the girl bands that I've been around who've made really good stuff. It's just not even. It was a little bit unusual
Yeah.
in the late 70s and early 80s. I mean, Chrissie Hynde, I mean, obviously, you know, there's people like Debbie Harry and Susie Sue, but Chrissie Hynde coming out front in a band with her Telecaster and playing those great riffs, she really was a pioneer, I think.
Yeah.
It felt like the last nut to crack as well, didn't it, guitar? Because female drummers and bass players became de rigueur much earlier than that, and you'd see touring drummers and bass players in massive bands. And then the guitar thing just feels like it's still just about happening now.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, I think that's one of the attractive things about the guitar playing on social media. Seeing these girls just playing all different kinds of music. It's not just I'm in South London in an indie band. From all over the world, you got girls playing all kinds of stuff, jazz, you know, fusion, everything, you like metal, whatever it is, stuff you can't put a name to. That's obviously that's got to be a good thing.
It's wonderful.
So we've got to a Rickenbacker, then we've got two guitars in.
Okay, yeah, we've got two guitars. Yeah. Okay.
So what are we now, 84?
Yeah, so what I'll do now, I'll just show you a couple of things real quick. Thanks, Rich. So the next big guitar that I got, really, and it is a big guitar, is the 355. I mean, big.
Oh, my word.
So, people who've followed me over the years will know the story about this guitar.
Instantly, that one chord. It's like, that's it. That's that song.
Well, when there's a whole backstory about when the Smiths were signing to Sire Records in America, and I kind of tricked Seymour Stein, or charmed Seymour Stein into promising me one if we signed, even though I had my pen at the ready, and he did on January the 2nd, 1984. Took me into 48th Street Guitars, We Buy Guitars, and I just saw this thing and fell in love with it. But anyway, I trundled back in the snow with this guitar, and I went to the Iroquois Hotel, which was a real dive. And but anyway, I opened the case, and I just had a noodle on it in the shop, but I opened the case, and first thing I did was... That's what the guitar did, really. And I thought, okay, I need another bit. It did all of that really for me. So
it just fell out.
Yeah,
at the moment.
yeah, all those kind of chords. And I don't, in all honesty, I wasn't aware that I even knew those chords. It wasn't like I could go, oh yeah, a guitar teacher taught me about those major sevenths.
Right.
I don't even remember that I knew them. But I think if you're lucky enough, one of the things that I've learned doing the book, I knew this anyway, but I've really experienced it now, that if you're lucky enough to own and have relationships with different guitars, they will make you make different kinds of music.
Right.
It's a very privileged situation to be in. It's kind of defined me, really. I think that's defined me more than being known or anything like that. It was quite a big deal when I was pulling all these guitars out and revisiting them, and I was like, oh wow, it's all of this stuff came rushing back about where my head was at the time, and And then the other thing with this was when I was like, oh, okay, I've got a new song now, you know, and I thought, all right, okay, well.
Guitar's just paid for itself.
Oh, yeah.
But awesome.
I thought I'll bring that to the band. I then went. Oh, that sounds like a good start to a song. That just was like, okay, well, that can be the B-side.
The most beautiful bounce
Yeah.
in the right hand.
That chord change, I have no idea what, I have no business doing that. F to B minor. And to the Smiths' credit, the rest of the band made it into a great record.
Right.
You know.
Two things I find really interesting about that whole process. One was, can you remember being aware of realizing that guitars maybe had songs in them, that it was something it could give to you? Because I think a lot of the way a lot of people who play guitar think about the guitar is I'm going to do what I want on this guitar, and they try and sort of bend the guitar into what they want to do rather than letting the guitar do what it wants to do.
I think that's possibly the difference between your sensibilities being I'm a songwriter and your sensibilities being I play over things. I think if you're a songwriter, the business of that kind of thing happening, the basis of a song composition, is so magical and elusive and sometimes maddening that once you've had that experience once, you go, instruments have songs in them. Some people will go over to a piano and there's a certain piano that Paul McCartney's written so many songs on, and he will probably give that piano so much credit.
Yeah.
And it's like, it might be something to do with the fact that you're Paul McCartney. But so, yes, I do think, I really do, yeah. And I was very fortunate that, I mean, Smith's been very prolific, and our turnover of putting records out was really quick. That gave me an excuse to keep buying guitars.
And to have the confidence to go, yeah, this is a song. This isn't just some noodle I've played. Actually, this is a song. And I think all of us who play guitar probably throw away 20 songs a day, potentially, by doing some noodle, which you go, no, actually, let's work this up.
Yeah.
And you had the confidence and the vision to say, no, I'm going to take that and we will work it up.
Yeah, I think also I've been very lucky in that I've worked with a lot of good singers.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I mean, most famous for being in the Smiths, and that's amazing. But what you're talking about, Kirsty McCall was really good at getting that out of me, because I would be sitting with Kirsty, and it's a little different with Kirsty because we used to hang out a lot together, and we'd just be chatting, and I'd be noodling, and she'd say, "What's that?" And I'd be like, "I don't know," and she'd make me record it on a little cassette, and then a week later she'd have written lyrics for it. So Cribs were really good for that as well. If I was knocking around a riff around at a sound check, they always had the radar up, and they were very creative people. So I have to give credit to my partners. It's great collaborating, working with other people. But yeah, I think I know if I'm onto something good, because there's been a few times when I've literally gone round to, well, like Gary Jarman in the Cribs, I had this riff for this song, We Share the Same Skies, and I played it one night and I was like, that's got to be a song. And this was in Portland, Oregon, and I went round to Gary's and he was doing something else. I was like, Gary, let's get in the basement and do this. So you know when you're onto something pretty good, I think, and it's a brilliant thing. You know, other times you have to really, you think you're onto something. Maybe I've been in that situation as well. I mean, that happened with stop me if you think you've heard this one before. I was the only one in the building who thought it was any good. Before the vocals went on and everything, but as a potential riff.
Right.
You know, I had this... so I had that...
It's just music, isn't it?
It's just.
It sounds crazy to say it's just music, but when you're in, well, all of our worlds, but specifically mine and Dan's world, where 99% of what you hear is mindless noodling.
Well,
and sometimes that can be a bit divorced from music and melody and song. And
yeah, well, what I was doing there was I actually I didn't realise I wasn't thinking I'm going from a major to a minor, and that's it. Just sort of went. My ear just went with it, really. But there's a couple of members of the band just thought it was bizarre. For that they were, well, okay.
But you can't argue with the end result, though.
No, I mean, hey, in the end, the band were amazing.
Yeah.
We did this. They were like, okay, he's a bit nutty, but we trust him. So it was good.
You said about the major and minor, you didn't know where that came from, and those major seventh chords you were playing. I said there was two things that amazed me about what you played. So you said when you were growing up, there was lots of records in your house. I think I'm hearing classic 50s American songs, like classic melodies in those chord changes.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that just permeated in some way, that you'd heard a lot of those classic songs that used.
Yeah, well, I think where that comes out more than anything is that, not just on the Smiths records, but my solo stuff as well, and with the acoustics are really loud on some of the records. Right. Obviously Big Mouth's an obvious one, and maybe There Is a Light, but and that was something that I heard as a little boy. That the first records I ever heard was my auntie and my mother playing at Everly Brothers, and you've got Chet Atkins playing like these layered acoustics, and I still think that's an absolutely amazing sound to this day. You hear it on. What's the Tom Petty? Some Tom Petty song like "Running Down a Dream." It's a real 50s rock and roll device, right. And I suppose in the 80s when most people, sometimes myself included, were wearing eyeliner and all black and baggy clothes and all of that sort of stuff, to be dropping those 50s elements. Yeah. I can remember how it felt at the time, when we were doing it. We do it in a couple of records, quite a few. It was very deliberate. And also it was a little bit of a We Are a Guitar Band.
Okay.
It's like, this is what guitars do. I mean, that's why I put mandolins on. Please, please, please let me get what I want. It was very... I sort of felt like it was my duty to do it. I'm still like that now. I still think, well, with me and what I'm doing now with me and my band, I think I've sort of come full circle, really, with the solo band. It's like, if there's a good synth part, I just kind of go, would that be better on guitar? and even if it's not, it's going on. And even if it's not, we're doing it on the guitar, because we're a guitar band.
When we were chatting before we started filming, Johnny brought out an Ovation acoustic, which we may or may not see, I don't know. The observation was made that we talk about the jangle Johnny Marr guitar sound that's famous from the Smiths days. As you say, those acoustics are really loud, and it's a reminder that the Smiths was a really, really short period of time in your
Yeah.
Yeah.
in your creative life. You know, it's
Yeah.
what was it, 84 to 87 or something like that?
Well, we
88?
formed in 82 to 87. The public knew us from 83 to 87. So it was really short and very prolific. And, you know, the thing about it, why we're even talking about it now, is like it's sort of much loved. And dare I say it, you know, there's got to be something in why people like it so much. I suppose it stands up very well. You know, I can hear that.
Yeah. But people are still, like my daughter's 19 and she discovered you guys. And it's such an important part of her musical journey, your songs.
That's amazing.
It is. It's incredible. But it's testament to what you were doing at the time. Just you grab people, you know, the songs, just the attitude.
Yeah.
It just was at that perfect place in time where it's like, yes, we need this right now.
And the push away from the mainstream in a way.
Yeah, well, aside from the dedication and I guess the talent of all the members of the band, we just thought being in the Smiths was the greatest thing in the world.
Of course.
You know, at the time. And I think that's, and that's good. I'm really pleased that we did, you know. I think that was great. I'm very proud of what all of us did, really. Yeah.
We've got a lot of guitars to get through, but there's one last thing I wanted to ask you. Musically, you were, you know, you'd found your sound, you'd found that thing, but in the Smiths, you weren't just the guitar player in the Smiths, like, because there was a long time that you didn't have a manager, and that you had to look after all that. You were doing so much apart from the music to keep that going.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I
think, well, a lot of that side of it, the way my role in the band, what you're talking about, a lot of that was because I started the band.
Right.
So, you know, it was just the way it was that I found the rehearsal room, and then I found the first manager, and I found the band members. You know, I found everybody, and then I found the studios, and that sort of, you know, it started off as my project at the start, right? Right, and then obviously, you know, things were completely different. But I guess, you know, that was just it at the start of it. It suited my personality, but the problem was, as you know, everybody subsequently found out, that when you're playing to 10,000 people in America and you're doing these 6 weeks tours and you're a huge band and all that, I've yet to find anyone who thinks that it's a good idea that the 23-year-old guitarist is the manager. Probably should rethink that one, lads. And I was also trying to be busy writing songs.
Yeah.
I think, you know, more interestingly though, what you were saying, that this thing about I found my thing. Yeah. Well, I know why you say that, because it seems like the sound of the guitar playing was like, oh, right, okay, that was fully formed, as people say. Yeah. But I have to say that at the time, and even now, I still don't feel like I have entirely found my thing. When I heard you say that, I was like, oh, I know what you mean, but I'm glad that it's like this search. There's still 40% of me, maybe 30% now. Back then, there was, so you go, okay, right, you know, we sound like this, we've got this song, we've got Boy with the Thorny Side, or we've got Girlfriend in a Coma, or whatever came out. And, but at the time, it was a search.
Sure.
Song by song was a search. And if I think about that, I'm still like that now.
Yeah.
I think you can hear it. Like once we get to Strange Ways, you can hear the ambition in certainly a little bit in the production and in the arrangement of guitars and stuff. And all right, we're creating a new narrative here because we know what happens next. But it's almost like you can hear you going, I want something different. I want something bigger. I want something new.
And it's always been about pushing. It's like, okay, well, this is now my thing. I'll just do the same, like, you know, create all the same things that rely on that. No, I'm going to go in this direction now. I'm going to, you know, we're going to be pushing something different. I think there's always when people think they've got you, you know, going through the albums, they've got your sound pigeonholed. It's like, no, We're just going to go here now.
Yeah. Well, the most obvious, there's the best illustration of that was that the first song on the last album doesn't have any guitars on it, and that was a decision I made months before, and I thought I've really needed to keep stretching what I was about and what I thought the band should be about, really. That just for my part. And there's a couple of songs on there, like on Happy Birthday being like really 12-stringy acoustic, and the sound of some of the songs on that last album being really unadorned and open sounding. That I can remember that being my frame of mind. I mean, the obvious thing about putting an instrumental keyboard thing at the start of Last Night I Dreamt, I've been working on that. That was because I got really into Low by David Bowie.
Wow.
And, his whole Berlin thing, and it being the Smiths ended up sounding like a trippy night in Salford, but it worked, And then there's a couple of other songs as well, like I think I started something that's got this real glam thing that I deliberately left super dry because I wanted it to be a bit like what Mick Ronson was doing on Aladdin Sane. So new things were, there's loads of things in the Smiths that don't sound like Heaven Knows and don't sound like This Charming Man.
Yeah.
And so, as I say, anything was up for grabs as long as really my mates thought it was cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Overdrive in those days? Because listening back, and we are going to move on from the Smiths in a minute, it felt like it sort of crept in a bit more. Like there was more overdriven sounds as time went on a bit.
Well, I think I was very black and white about things, and and guitar culture was my life. Being a guitarist had been my life by then. It was like no turning back. By the time I formed the Smiths, so these things were like life and death to me. So the idea of like having distortion, I was like, well, no, the Pistols have just done that as well as you can do it. That was my thing, and anything beyond that was, I guess, I can't even think of what it would be, like maybe metal or something like that. But I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I think I maybe even use the HM2 on that, the black one with it. And I thought, well, if I'm gonna, go big, right? So I mean, this is a Carmine Plexitone. The other thing about it that's good was that I was trying just getting those. Trying to be as nasty as possible. I thought that's a pretty good riff. But the thing that I did on the choruses on that. So to say, we went from absolutely no distortion to. That's what happens on that record. I thought, well, okay, if you want some gnarly shit, there you go. That's all I needed to do, really.
No convention. I'm not doing this conventionally. I'm going to do it in a different way.
Yeah, and the track again. The rest of the band just played a blinder on it.
Awesome. Okay, so
I'll pull out another one.
That's a 1960 ES-355 that was bought for you when you signed the deal in America.
Yeah, that's that one. All right, so I brought this up because I don't think this has been kind of talked about before, really. But this Casino, like a lot of people, I got this because of the Beatles and the Hollies. So essentially, this is the guitar that How Soon Is Now was done on, and when the track was recorded, it's just such a simple track, but the rhythm track just went. For the demo and for the 4 or 5 hours after we cut the backing track, I was like, yeah, it's okay. But as the day went on in the studio and then me and the producer were left on our own, I was like, that's not cutting it. There's just something missing. And that's when we sent we sent that boring rhythm track out to the Fender twin reverbs, and it went. The thing about that was that over the years, I play How Sin Is Now on my live set, and I've got the sound really down, and me and my band play it really pretty well. And I've played with not many people, but a couple of times. And when we come to do the book, when I picked up this guitar and I played it, it sounded like the record.
Wow.
It sounded more like the record than any other time. And it's to do with this particular guitar, it being a hollow body, the P90s and all of that. But this just into a Fender amp, it sounded, I was like, oh, okay. It really confirmed that no matter how clever you are with graphic equalization.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty good at programming. I really like programming pedals.
Yeah.
I'm nerdy about it. And I've had to do it a lot with How Sin Is Now over the years. But essentially that last bit of the ingredient is it's this guitar.
It's mad, having heard the record so much for obvious reasons. I hadn't quite figured out that's what the rhythm you were playing was, because the tremolo so takes over and it's the sound of the track.
That's right, yeah. Well, I mean, if we're really going to get down into it, there's also, we were pushing the faders in time going, me and the producer were going, shum, 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 and that adds to that whole thing. And what's good about that, as well as the fact that we had to feed into these Fender amps, and when they went out of sync, we had to start again. It was only every 8 seconds. So we fed the rhythm track. I didn't play it through a Fender Twin with tremolo on. We fed the rhythm
from the studio.
Yeah.
So in other words, that's unheard of in the last 30 years, because you just would have sampled it and looped it.
Yeah,
But the fact that it isn't looped makes it keeps your ear moving, because no 4 seconds are exactly the same.
Yes.
So all of that stuff goes into it, I think.
And then the slide part on the top is that.
Yeah, that used to be like a really pretty thing. I used to just do this on it.
Sorry, there's me assuming it's a slide part.
No, it's a slide.
Yeah.
It's a slide. But the thing I was going to mention, again about pulling these guitars out when I was doing the book. That only sounds like that on
that guitar.
On that guitar, yeah.
It's killer. And what is that?
It's a 64 Casino. Is that right, Rich? Yeah. Got it from Denmark Street. And it's the sound of How Sin Is Now and Nowhere Fast.
A lot of your guitars are in really lovely condition as well. You've looked after them.
Yeah, which is amazing, because any guitar tech who's ever worked with me will tell you that. I just leave them around. This is how long I've been doing it, or how old I am these days. Well, tuner pedals weren't around when I was starting out. When I was in bands, unheard of. You had to tune to a piano.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of those in like garages and all this stuff that I used to. So I used to just tune up to records. And,
wow. You're a harp player as well.
Yeah. I had a harmonica, so sometimes like in the early Smiths days, I tune up to the harmonica. But what I was going to say though was like there wasn't really a lot of guitar stands around either.
Yeah.
So I just got, because I'm from that period, I leave my guitar. This is right, isn't it, Rich? Rich will tell you. I leave my guitars on top of amps and leaning up against amps. And if I you want to see me grapple with a stand, it's like I'm dealing with a wild animal. It's like I'm at the zoo. My strap will catch on. I'm like just so uncoordinated. But also, I like the look of a guitar on top of an amp.
Yeah.
I just like that. So I'm very, very lucky, touch wood, that I haven't had too many mishaps. But me and guitar stands are flipping. It's one of the reasons I never have them on stage. I just walk. You never see me put a guitar on stage because otherwise I'll just end up rolling on the floor.
First time I walked in your house in the early 90s, walked in the living room, there's a burst leaning up against the bookshelf with a dog running round.
Yeah. 59 burst.
You're 59 burst, yeah?
Yeah. Well, my dogs are amazing. That's the thing. My dogs, 2 German Shepherds it was as well, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it's part of living in my household, really. Dogs and children have to navigate amazing old guitars, which I have to say were expensive for a working class boy from Manchester, but they were nothing like they are nowadays, obviously.
Yeah.
And next guitar.
Next guitar.
Okay, so just like magic, I'm now playing this one. I thought, and this was another thing about doing the book that was great. That I've been asked about this guitar so many times over the years. Different people like, "Oh, you still got that green one?" I think it's because I used it on TV a couple of times.
Right.
And I did use it to record Headmaster Ritual and Nowhere Fast. Which I think is on a TV thing. It weighs an absolute crazy ton.
Far out, man.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be over £10, isn't it?
Yeah, it is over £10, yeah. But Angie bought me that for a present when we got engaged when we were kids. And yeah, so it really means a lot to me. And it's amazing sounding. But Girl Afraid, it's on. And Headmaster. And one of the layered guitars on Nowhere Fast with the Casino. Do you want me to show you another one?
Please, yeah. Oh, well, I'm going to say, what's really lovely in the book, there's like a full page, full bleed shot of the bird's eye maple back of it. You get really good...
Yeah.
The details of that stuff are
Well, it's the
amazing.
distinctive thing about that guitar, so... Why this is interesting is that so I got this one from A1 Repairs in Manchester in '85 when we came to start Meets Murder album, and I wanted to go back to a Les Paul. I'd been on Les Pauls before the Smiths, so I wanted to go back to that, and so I always knew I was going to when I got the opportunity, and then I got the cherry one, which is quite unusual to find at the time. Because I remembered the now famous one that George Harrison plays, that Eric Clapton are giving. Yeah. But the thing about this guitar, for anyone who's interested, what a lot of people think are my arpeggios that I've used on with the slow motion replay, Dogs of Lust, Share Save Skies with the Cribs, a lot of Smith stuff from '85 onwards. Headmaster is this guitar. People assume that it's Rickenbackers and stuff like that, but this clean is the. But the other thing about this guitar is it's what Bernard Sumner used for Regret with New Order. It's not my song, so. And the one that I would only have written on this guitar, another one of those things of some guitars having music in them. Something about the guitar maybe come up with it, you know, but amazing bass line on that song. And yeah, so this is the one that I'd run into a burning building for, probably.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, that and the 9 pickup guitar that I bought with Noel Gallagher, of course.
So Noel said that we had to get you to show us that guitar.
So, first time Noel and I hung out together, he was on the dole.
All good so far.
And I was kind of pretty out there rock star, I guess, is probably fair enough assessment. And this is what I bought. Look at that baby.
Oh, man.
Do you know, I wouldn't get rid of it for anyone. My logic was that, because it was the 90s, was that I think it looks fantastic. The thing about it is it sounds amazing.
Right.
Yeah, so obviously 9 on and off switches.
Of course.
Obviously. But then just to add more torture for the guitar tech, I think it's in and out of phase, I think.
Yeah, right. Brilliant.
So you've got, I think it's 18 switches on this thing.
I am expecting Nigel Tufnell to walk in.
I know. I'm okay with it. I'm all right with it. I tell you why, because about 3 years ago, I remembered it. You know, I was messing around in the studio and I pulled it out and I wrote Spirit, Power and Soul on it, which was the first single off the last album, and I really liked that track.
Yeah.
And the guitar riff, it just came out of this guitar. So 30 years later and much ridicule, see, you write Spirit, Power and Soul. I don't care.
Does it work?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it does work, yeah. I mean, it just sounds like a guitar to you for your hair, but...
Wow.
What else am I on here now?
What is it? An early '80s Strat then somewhere?
No, it's the late 70s.
Late '70s, is it? Yeah, okay. Deep beneath. It's kind of like Richie Blackmore goes to Blackpool or something.
It's Kraftwerk if they're in a metal band.
There you go.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Seen enough of that one. There you go.
All my fillings are loose.
Right. Okay, so I guess obviously there's loads of stuff going on here. I've got the 12-string 355 and
come
all
on.
that.
Okay.
But this
This is the one that started the Jag thing.
Yeah, so this is the whole Jag journey. I think there's a little bit of kind of cohesion or because the Red Les Paul I used a lot in the and this was the first Jag that I owned.
Sorry, not to go too
That's all right.
biographical, but was the happening alongside electronic?
Yeah.
All around the same sort of time?
Yeah, the electronic would run at the same time.
And did you have a different kind of guitar approach to both projects?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Because the thing with we were kind of, I guess on those albums, Dusk and Mind Bomb, we were trying to capture a sort of late night, almost, there was a spirit that we were looking for that was, I guess is like, I don't know, maybe Memphis in 1968 at the, not that we wanted to sound like a soul band, but there was a kind of after hours, illicit, kind of mysterious world that we were trying to be in, really. And, you know, so Matt's singing through a bullet mic quite a lot. There's a lot of it's to do with the aesthetic of what there was about. And that was amazing. But I was contrasting that with Manchester amazing nuttiness that was happening literally in my home studio, in my house at the same time, which was, rave wasn't a thing then, it wasn't, it wasn't even a word, but it was just new music that was coming out of Manchester that me and Bernard were doing. And that was a whole different thing for me. I think had I not been there, I think from a guitar point of view, it would have been a bit challenging because there's not a lot of room for guitars in electro pop, you know, and I wanted to make really great electro pop, and who better to do it with than Bernard Sumner? And you know, I mean, literally, Bernard. I've seen Bernard as a party trick. He can, once he knows what a synth's doing, he can turn the volume down and then actually create a sound, and then turn the volume back up and go, there it is. I mean, he really knows about synthesis. A brilliant guy. But both things were going at the same time, and it was great. It was absolutely great for me. I mean, they toured the world, you know. So
we talked about, or I mentioned Ambition earlier. That was it. Mind Bomb, the first third record you did with them. It's literally that. It's like it's stereoscopic, 360-degree sonically compared with Smith's certainly. You're going on vertical curve there, and then you compare that with electronic, with those massive singles, you know, that everyone remembers. Neil Tennant singing on a couple of them. It just felt like just a massive creative place for you to be. You had outlets in every direction. Yeah,
it was. Well, it needed to be really, because the fallout from the Smiths on a personal level was so intense and difficult that that thing which you've just described, in fact, I appreciate you putting it in those terms, that was happening in my life, that there's massive cinemascopic, cinematic approach, which did win won some George Martin Engineer Award for that record, quite rightly, nothing to do with me. The kind of, not pioneering, but real sort of discovery that was happening in Manchester, that was just that really balanced out the real personal difficulty of the Smith split, you know, to get philosophical about it. So thank God I had that going. So in other words, it wasn't just all roses, and you know, I was literally up and down the motorway from Manchester to London, the electronic, amazing, on touring the world with and then doing those records with electronic, playing at Dodger Stadium and all that. But there was quite a heavy counterbalance to that.
Right.
That's the fact of it. That went on for quite a long time. So now you mention it, thank God that I did have that other amazing creative outlet, which was almost in spite of it, really. Wow. You know, and it was great. We ended up with some great records. So I look back on that time, and I mean, I still play some of those songs in my set now. You know, getting away with it. It's like become like a really big part of my set now, which is very, very cool. You know.
Yeah.
And when Matt Johnson with he took a hiatus of, I guess, 16 years, a long, long time. When he came back with a very poignant and brilliant song called "We Can't Stop What's Coming," I played guitar on it. That was an amazing thing, you know? Wow. Yeah. So this happened in Portland. Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse had contacted me and outright asked me to join the band, and which is kind of Isaac's way, really. And I was like, I don't know you, but I did join. He was right.
Wow. Sometimes you just got to ask.
He was right. Yeah. He was right. But the idea was that I go over to work with Modest Mouse for 10 days, and we try doing some writing, and so the very first night that I was there, it was just me and Isaac. There was an engineer being unobtrusive, sat away. I was in Isaac's loft in his attic, crazy hot, and he was playing through. So not many people know about Fender Super 6s. I think are there 612s in them or 610s or something?
You'll know.
I'll ask the guys from the pedal show; they'll know.
We will confirm here. Yeah.
But anyway,
I want to say it's a 6x10, but it could
maybe
be a
6x10.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're super crazy loud. Anyway, and Isaac was playing through at least one of those. I mean, eventually he started playing through 3 of them. And I was playing a Telecaster through a deluxe reverb, and it just wasn't cutting it. And I'd noticed this guitar; it didn't have all the stickers on. Part of his guitar stuff, and anyway, my guitar wasn't cutting it, so I picked this up, and it was a moment where. So this is why I changed. Right?
Thank God you did, because it's a.
As soon as I picked it up, he said to me, he goes, "Have you got any riffs?" And I'd had some riff that I was playing in some different way. Something like that. I remember it had that in it. But as soon as I picked this up, I just went. And when that happened, I just went, this thing that I'm playing, I kind of was like, I think my life's about to change. I genuinely did. Not because of the riff, but because I was like, hang on a minute. And then over the next couple of hours, we wrote that song Dashboard, which became like a big song for us.
I think I saw you guys performing on Letterman.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah. So we did that. So that was a good start. So I was going, this is why. And then I think, so get this way. Then we did that, and by this time it's 3 a.m. He went, "Got any more riffs?" and I was like, well, my best English accent, my Austin Powers accent. So actually, I did, boy, I do. And the guitar made me do it, and then we wrote that song. So that was on the first night. So
Far out.
And then I guess what? Nearly 20 years later, I just play Jags now. I built my own Jag, and that's this whole other story that we can talk about. But it's because of what happened with this guitar, and honestly, it's because of who I was at 14. Because in those moments, I'm not going, all right, this is a thing that I'm doing, and then I'm then going to go and watch the footy or whatever. What it's life and death to me, this stuff, as crazy as that sounds. And you can go, well, you're a bit of a nut job, right? Because you might be reading into things, and I know, right, it's my career and it's my profession, but it's kind of an odd thing to do. Where I was like, I am definitely having a moment right now, and but because of it, I started building my own Jags, and obviously I'm in a very extremely privileged position, and Fender heard that I was building my own Jags, and I ended up with this prototype.
So was that the actual guitar you picked up in that session? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I neglected to mention that as soon as I got it, I went. And also because Isaac was quite drunk, I said, "Do you want to sell this guitar?" And he went, "Yeah."
And what is that's an early 60s?
It's 1963.
Yeah, okay.
Rich, sorry, mate, can I grab that for a second? I just want to
Dan,
Just want to hold it.
Dan, by the way, is having a Jaguar realization in his life similar to Johnny's, I think. There's words for that sort of thing in different cultures, aren't there? I think the Buddhists call it satori or something
That's
like that.
right,
And we
yeah.
call it a moment of clarity, where you realise that this is a moment of consciousness and your life is changing.
That's right, yeah.
It's very inspirational that you talk about it in that way, because grab it, people, when it happens.
Yeah.
Satori, that's right. That is the way. Yeah, well, I'd...
One's called a moment of credit card terror.
there is, but I think, you could look at it less cosmically, which I don't, and be like, well, I am who I am, and I'm obsessive, and I've been on this. I've been obsessing about this from being a little boy, about this guitar thing. But if I wasn't that way, then this wouldn't have happened. This is Aldous Huxley. Chrysler Building, Marcel Duchamp's Bicycle Wheel. These were done by my friends, Ali and Ori, who started a fanzine called Dynamic. And they did that I believe it was in Sydney. But so this was one of the prototypes. There's a couple of prototypes. My son's got one. And I ended up this just ended up being everything I needed in a way, really. Because over the years with Modest Mouse, me and my tech at the time, I just was like, well, look, I want to make a perfect Jag. I thought it was perfection, and then when I started to play a lot of shows, the bridge kept going down. I mean, I put that Mustang bridge on it, which is a lot of people do, obviously. Yeah. But the bridge just kept changing, and the string height was changing. I thought, well, that's weird. That's not right. But it's part of the character of the Jag. And then the other thing that started to happen was that I was hitting the on and off the pickup switches on and off by accident. Yep. I found though that I really liked the high pass filter.
Right.
And like most people, because we don't set Jags up right, that became redundant. The tone section or rhythm section, whatever you call it. So it's a long explanation, but change the poles that the bridge sit on, so it doesn't move up and down. Put little rubber feet on it, so it stops that, keeps the energy in it. Crucially, changed.
That's genius.
Added that.
Yeah.
But because I really wanted to keep the high pass filter, and also I like the look of this chrome, I didn't want to change that, so I had to find a reason for that to stay there. But so also it makes more sense to me, particularly singing. I use the high pass filter, the notch filter, all the time.
Wow.
Always using it. Yeah, just different nights I do different things, but sometimes even though I program my sounds, if I'm singing, I just go, it's too bassy, and I just hit it up, and then. It's amazing what happens in process, isn't it? Because of the process of putting this on. We put this on because I didn't want to keep knocking those switches off. But then that gave us an opportunity to have a fourth position. And that's just what happens in process, I guess, the creative process, which is in series. Now, the guitar in series is so thick sounding. So fat, almost like P90s. It's kind of unheard of on a Jag, but that looked a little lonely on its own. So we gave it an extra switch, an extra notch switch. Which happens when you're in that series position. So I keep losing count. There's 9 or 10 different positions of this. So it does more than the old Jag does, but with less switches.
It's just amazing, isn't it? It's just
Yeah. Dan's had a Jaguar revelation, as we have said. I was lucky enough when Johnny did this project with Fender first. I was lucky enough to be working at Guitarist magazine at that time, and I think we made a video, didn't we?
That's right,
with Bill
Bill's,
Puplett, and you explained about the pickups and everything and the whole process.
Well, it can sound like any guitar because the bridge pickup. So Tim at Bare Knuckle, he really understood It's quite hard to talk about sound really and use words to get the nuance right. But from what I remember now, it's been a while ago, but I think this came from the Joe Strummer pickup on the Telecaster that he did. One of them definitely came from the City Boy Telecaster, I remember that, or the Yardbird. So the Yardbird and City Boy. So it's super punky. And you know, it really came into its own for me in the cribs.
It's all melody. It's wow.
It feels like almost like a resolution of a journey, because what you were playing there is reminiscent of the early days, and it's you. It sounds like you.
Yeah. Well, let's say the Jag, that moment I had with the Jag and why I pursued it with so much passion, was like, this is much like when I got the Ricky, really. I was like, this is going to make me sound like this is where I need to go.
Yeah.
But because I was older, I think I was like, okay, I think I know how I'm supposed to sound now. I was in my 40s when that happened. And as I said earlier, I still feel like I'm on a search. The next song I write, or hopefully, or the next few songs, I'm going to be like looking for something, I think. But I'm all right with if I could come up with some stuff and it sounds like me, like, you know, whether it's the Bond theme or whatever it is, whatever I'm on, I'm all right if I can do a good job of that. I don't mind, like, you know, I don't mind sounding like how I'm supposed to sound, really. And this sort of does facilitate it. So still, I don't want to think like, okay, I've done it now, by any means. That's why the last few singles sound the way they do. They're sort of quite unusual. Yeah. I'm determined to sort of keep doing that. But as a guitar player, I'm sort of, I think, you know, I'm all right with having my voice.
Yeah. Did it, so alongside all of this band work that Johnny's done, you may or may not be aware that there's been film soundtracks, there's been a tremendous amount of session work. Did you ever get to a point where someone calls you in, or you start working with someone to do something like that, and they ask you to sort of, for want of a better term, wheel Johnny Marr out? You know, can I have Johnny Marr on this, expecting you to do the thing, and you've pushed back against that? Does that ever happen?
That's what they always want, to be fair. And now, though, instead of having an attitude about it, I sort of get it. Like, okay. Yeah, well, okay, if you got me to sound like me. Yeah. But what's great about working with Noel is because we know each other so well, he likes when I do that. And when I come up with that thing, I know he particularly likes it. And that's really what people sort of want, which is fine. They want melody, really, and hooks. Nothing wrong with that. But if I do something a bit off the wall, because he's my friend and because he's also someone who is all about, well, what's good for the record, right? Yeah. As long as it's good for the record, he's sort of happy with it. Although I did kind of jangle out quite a lot on his last album. It is true, yeah.
And I guess you have the sonic space to do everything else in your solo stuff, because, you know, let it be said, that is now the longest part of your career to date, isn't it? Being a solo artist.
Yeah, and me and the band are, you know, we put on a good show, like we're a good live band. I've had the same musicians for 10 years now. They're really great.
Saw your Crystal Palace.
Nice one.
It was just fantastic.
They're really good singers.
Yeah.
Great players.
As are you. I had never heard you sing live before.
Yeah.
And because you're out fronting it, it's like, whoa, your voice is superb.
Well, thanks very much. I mean, it's a bit of an acquired taste for people, and they've sort of, I take it seriously, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it unless I thought it was good enough. Frankly, I mean, the thing with singing, when you know what happened with me was that I was so known for not singing
Sure.
that it's a big ask for people, but it's gone pretty well. And then the rest of it is just whatever's in my own head and whatever I aspire to be for my group. You know, again, so much of this goes back to the way I was when I was 15, 16. It's like, you know, the front man in this band plays guitar and is a singer. It isn't someone just led by a singer. That was a very deliberate thing. After I was working with the Cribs, I thought, well, if I'm going to be in another band, I want for the singer to play the guitar. And I'd written these songs, so it might as well be me. But then, you know, I think I was pretty serious about it when I was 17. Before the Smiths, when I was pushed to the front, but now I'm much better at it. And you know, hundreds and hundreds of gigs later, you get better and all of that. So I'm still working on it. But I think
there was a
we've got
moment
our sound.
with Zach Starkey, wasn't there?
Yeah, in the Healers. Yeah,
in the Healers,
yeah.
where because I think you were looking for a singer.
Yeah.
And then he said, hang on, I thought you were singing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I trusted him. But it was Zach as well. And then years ago, Chrissy said I should do it.
Yeah.
Because I was doing backing vocals with the Pretenders. And that's a pretty good.
What's that like? Like being on stage you're growing up, listening to the Pretenders. Suddenly you're on stage with the Pretenders. Doing TVs with Chrissy. I mean, that's got to be amazing.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing when I joined the Pretenders was, it was as amazing as it sounds, particularly as I was 24 at the time. So even though I'd been through the Smiths and I'd done The Queen Is Dead and we'd been all done, you know, with all that stuff that's on the TV and all of that, I was still really a kid.
Yeah.
And she influenced me in many, many ways that I've then that I bring to my band.
Right.
When we rehearse, we don't mess about.
Sure.
When I sing at rehearsals, I'm singing like I'm on stage. There's loads of things that she doesn't even realise that she did for me, really. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing, especially when we opened for U2 at the Olympic. What was it called back then? It was like the Olympic Stadium or something. We had the Olympic flame going. It was 100,000 people. And we opened for U2 on the Joshua Tree tour, and I was 23, and it was pretty scary. But as you walk up on that stage, what are you going to do? You can't back out.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. I was with someone fronting the band who I thought, well, she's got this.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing thing, really, to learn. You know. But yeah, so that was trippy. Yeah.
Oh man.
Wow.
So we've come full circle with the guitars there. We started at the beginning, and obviously there are loads more guitars that Johnny has had and that you might know, but it's been a really nice snapshot of looking at some of those guitars. Maybe the last thing, you'll see loads of pictures of the book, so we don't need to plug that again. But for those people who just want to cop a bit of you and of your approach to the guitar, is there stuff that's remained constant throughout and remains constant in terms of what's important to your sound, how it goes over? I'm thinking things like chorus, compression. Is that do you still lean on those things?
Well, if you take what this guitar is doing, so obviously there's chorus on it, but I lean. So what I found out about, I didn't realise that I played with a lot of delay over the years. It's got more and more until someone picked up my guitar, the video director, and he started playing, but he didn't play like me. So I went, wow, there's a lot, because he wasn't playing to my delay. So, I mean, this is extreme. There's a lot on this, but this is one of the sounds I programmed for Newtown Velocity. So here I've got the Carl Martin Plexitone and the AC tone and the GT1000 for my delays and chorus, because I always like the Boss chorus anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that can do, and then I've got the loop station. But when this guy picked up a guitar and he started playing riffs, it just sounded like there's loads of delay on. But I play to the delay, so the way this might be obvious, but I don't do like what Edge does, which is the delay becomes part of the tune, if you like. I just see it as a big halo, and I play to it. So if I go like this, that's a lot of delay. But if I go, you can't really hear the delay.
No.
I sort of play into it. That's what I do. So compression, chorus. Another reason why I like the GT is because a lot of the chorus I use is pitch shift in unison, just ever so slightly detuned. It is just a more musical way of doing, depending on where I am on the fingerboard. It's just a nicer chorus that again goes back to where I was when I was a kid with like double tracking, but I prefer that kind of pitch shift unison. I mean, I don't like the phony stuff that goes up there. I tried that once for a while, but so I think playing to the sound and not letting the sound play me, I think.
Right. It almost sounds like there's a rhythm track going on behind the guitar. It is a very full sound, but you don't lose any of the melody of what you're playing.
Yeah.
It's supporting, not
Yeah,
trampling
exactly.
all over
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. It's got that ethereal thing, but you don't know, maybe because I'm playing so many notes, you know. So I think, but I like compression, especially on a Jag, just to get rid of that. This isn't too spiky. I was careful I calibrated the pickups, but just to get rid of that front end, even it out. If I'm playing rhythm, which I do a lot, obviously get rid of the chorus for that, and then really take the delay down. But I suppose, so this is a flat patch. I probably still sound the same even without anything. So as I say, the delay in the chorus is just to make the picture more produced. I have to say that, see my pedal board, can you pass that, Rich? In the Smiths, as the years went on, the pedal board got more, this was it.
This is the Smiths pedal board.
Yeah.
And that's a VCB 60.
Yeah.
Do you remember going into the music stores when they sold those, and it was like, how am I ever going to get that?
That's amazing.
And so that became because there was more and more sounds going on the record, and I'd only just kick some stuff in. I mean, didn't really use it a lot. I think I had chorus on all the time, but so that was it. But when I joined because Matt had made Infected, which was a very cleverly produced record and had a lot of stuff on it, and Soul Mining. A big part of my job was to recreate these little things that he'd done at 3 o'clock in the morning, where he'd played something and he'd put it through tape echo, and then he played like melodica through and Casio keyboards, and I was having to recreate that, plus his guitar parts that he'd done, and then my own stuff. So I got really into. I had a board that I had a rack that had a TC 2290 in it, which is an amazing bit of gear.
Amazing.
H3000, one of the early Roland, it was called a GP8, and then there was a GP50, and I was running that rack, and I got super into it. And I talk about this in the other book, but I was like, oh, I get it, producing with my feet.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see multi-effects particularly, and boards generally anyway. There's a few ways you can look at it, and we're in a certain kind of culture. But what it is with me is that people come to my shows expecting, even the early solo shows, they don't know it, but they're expecting to hear 12-string sounds, bits of backward sounds, slide, acoustic simulation, all of that sort of stuff. And I don't want to, I'm done with having 11 guitar changes. I'm not, do you know what? I don't like seeing other bands do it either.
Okay.
I'm into just playing my Jag. And the technology's got so good now. I mean, I've got all these pedals all around the studio, these, like all of us, boutique pedals that do all of this stuff, and I'm very, very into them. But because of my experience with the and the 2290 and the H3000 and everything, once I got that idea in my head, producing with my feet, I couldn't get away from it. Right. So every bit of every song, I like for the delays to be right. Even if it's just all people think they're hearing is chorus, delay, compression, it's really dialed in, bespoke, probably a bit too obsessively, really.
No, look, you know, we are the people that you can absolutely be obsessive about this stuff. We're right there with you. It's like,
as are they.
Yeah. It's like the world's biggest support group for this stuff. I think it's because you care and you want it to be right.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's everything. That's why we are all into this stuff, because it means something to us. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely obsession, absolutely. And I've been very, very lucky because my parents and my brother and sister, they put up with it and understood it and you know, loved me for it when I was playing records at 8:30 in the morning before I got to school. Definitely loud, or playing my guitar at 11 o'clock at night. And then my girlfriend, who's been my wife for 40 years now, nearly 30 odd years, 40, I think. I'm only pulling the face because I should know exactly the number. She was on that, I'm going to say it, journey, right, from 1979. And all these people in my life, from the Smiths to Matt Johnson to Chrissy, Bernard Sumner, Cribs, now my own band, everybody's trusted me and supported me in that mad obsession. And now with the book, my mate Matt Bancroft, who when I went solo, I got a really close mate, a brilliant mate. I thought, right, you're the art director, help me with the videos, help me with the sleeves. And I literally couldn't have done the book without him. So my point being, I've had this obsessive life. I'm very lucky at the people around me, but kids too, have give me the space and the support. And it's not always been easy sometimes, you know. There's been points in my life when I've probably been kind of nuts. But they've supported me on all these different sort of ventures. And now my management. So the key is just really find very loving, supportive people, I think.
I think also kind supporting people, they really see the value in what you do. And I think for fans of what you do, you've brought them so much joy. And like for me, and you know, seeing like my daughter discover you, and like today she was freaking out that I was coming here.
Yeah.
And her friends as well. And that what you do continues to bring so much joy to people. And it's really
it's very wonderful. Very kind of you to say. I appreciate it. I don't take it for granted, and as a kid, I thought it was an amazing thing to be able to get to be a musician, and I still do.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, everyone. First up, thanks for watching. Massive thank you to Johnny for having us here today.
We're not worthy.
For helping. It's a trip to be able to do stuff like this and get this kind of insight.
Yeah.
Johnny's got loads of stuff going on at the moment. There's a celebration of a solo career to date, I believe, happening. There's the book. please check out websites. We'll put all the relevant links and stuff below so you know what's happening in this awesome ongoing story.
Yeah, it's been a
Thanks,
true
guys.
honor, mate.
Yeah, it's
Thank
great
you so
to see
much.
you around these parts.
Yeah.
You know, we're all fans. Me and all my pals, we're all fans of the show.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Nice one.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.